Okay, here are my tuners. I wanted to do like a before and after, so what I did was I reliced 3 of the tuners and left the other 3 alone. So you can see on the left here, obviously there are the newish kind of tuners, and there's a little bit of discoloration on some of them due to the fact that while I was relicking these, I think I had some of the solution on my hands and I touched these, but anyway, that will be fixed when I actually go about relicking those. But yeah, just the long and the short is, there's the before and after, and stay tuned to see how I did it. Give you a little bit better look at the whole tuner here, kind of all around better picture. There's some of the post. So not much else to show. That's what they look like new, and that's what they look like supposedly old. Alright, so this is essentially all that you would need to do a relicking job on your tuners, or any kind of hardware for that matter. This is stuff that's just most people might have around the house, or if not, very easily accessible at your local store. This Loctite Fun-Tac stuff is just some putty, and it's really optional. I'll show you what I use that for. But the main thing to have is some kind of acid that's going to eat away some of the metal, or at least the coating on the surface of the metal. This is the Works toilet bowl cleaner, and it's just hydrochloric acid, or I can show you the label here. It says hydrogen chloride, which I'm not a chemist, but I think that's hydrochloric acid, which is the same thing as like muriatic acid. A lot of people on the web say to use that for doing something like this, but it's essentially the same thing. Maybe not the same strength or dilution, solution, whatever, but it will work. And you know, as you can see from the tuners that I did. So there's a couple of methods here. One method is to put the solution into one Tupperware container, get a smaller one, and then set your hardware in there like that, and then close the container and just give it some time. So what I found out is that just for this this strength of hydrochloric acid, it takes quite a while, probably maybe a full day. I don't know, I haven't really timed it. And that's the thing, is I just kind of have, this is kind of like a recipe that I don't have written down. You know, I haven't found the perfect recipe or done it enough times to know exactly. And I think that's kind of the consensus that a lot of people have when doing this. There's no exact way to do it. So I would encourage you to, you know, to do it, I guess, slowly, to kind of keep your eye on them, whatever hardware you're doing. And yeah, so as you go, you know, don't go out too quickly or go overboard with it, but just keep an eye on it, and I think it'll turn out okay. So the other part of this is just some sandpaper. I used some finer grit, like thousands or something like that. It wasn't really doing the job. Depending on the kind of nickel, and these tuners are nickel. The majority of these vintage tuners are, unless they're maybe from China. These are from Japan, but they are nickel. And so nickel luckily ages really well, as opposed to chrome, which it just doesn't play nicely with this kind of process and takes a little bit more finesse. But yeah, so I moved up to, like, this is some 600 grit, which is not, you know, super rough, but it does leave a little bit of scratch if you know, don't kind of take your time and keep your eye on it. But yeah, this finer stuff just really wasn't making a dent in the tuners, so I went to something heavier. So you can do that to begin with, to kind of scratch it up. Now the other alternative is to use something like this, which is a Q-tip, and you would get the solution, whatever you're using, hydrochloric acid in my case, on the Q-tip, and you would just kind of apply it to the tuner, right? Which is pretty self-explanatory. Now here's a thing that is always a point of contention with these. These are not sealed, right? They're open. That little hole in the top is where you would lubricate them or grease these at, you know, some point in time when they need it. I guess that's where they do it from the factory, unless they do it before they actually clamp these down. So you can see there's like an outer housing, and that clamps down into a base, and then the shaft goes through a hole in the base, and there's a plastic piece, some kind of like grommet or something on the inside there. But yeah, so these aren't sealed, so there's not a really perfect way to protect them from the whatever solution that you're using. If you do the whole gas thing, then those vapors will certainly still get into that hole and affect the gears. But the grease provides protection against that, for one thing. So the other method, if you apply it directly to them, this stuff is pretty liquidy, so it's going to go wherever it wants, and it's going to probably go in these crevices no matter how hard you try for it not to. So there's not really, again, like I said, a perfect way to protect those. But what you do want to do is, after whatever method you choose, when you're done, you want to wash these off with some water to get all that solution off there so it doesn't continue to age. And when you do that, the water is not going to hurt them because, like I said, the grease will protect the gears, and the grease is not oil-based. I'm sorry, it's not water-based, it's oil-based, so it's not going to mix and it's not going to wash out. And then give it some time to dry. And then if you really want to, you can go in there afterwards and take some petroleum jelly or Vaseline. And if you have a pipette or some kind of syringe, that's the ideal method. But you can even just put it on your finger and rub it in there, and then take some kind of cloth or napkin, paper towel, wipe it off, and then maybe even heat it up with like a hair dryer so it can kind of get liquidy and fall down into the gears, and then just turn the tuner. And I think that'll add some extra lubricant and extra protection. So that's my method. And I'll talk about the putty. So I essentially just made some little balls with this, little cones, and you can kind of stick them down in the hole as sort of a protectant to make sure that all of the solution doesn't go down in the hole. So that is one method. Who's to say if it really works, but I just use it as an extra layer of protection, and hopefully it did something. But yeah, so that is my method for relicking these, and so far so good. I haven't done any of the bushings or ferrules or screws yet. For the screws, I would say just skip the whole acidic stuff. There's no reason to compromise their strength. And a lot of those screws for these tuners, I've heard horror stories of the heads popping off and the body or the shaft of the screw being stuck down in the headstock, which would just create a nightmare to try to get that out. So I would just use some sandpaper and rough up the top of those screws, and you should be good to go. Let me say real quick that Stuart McDonald has a little how-to tutorial out there about aging some tuners, and the guy even says that he got the idea from the Les Paul forum. So even the professionals don't have a tried and true method, unless maybe Fender Gibson has their own stuff that they do and they do consistently. But yeah, so when he did it, the guy from Stuart McDonald, he put etching solution, diluted but straight onto the tuners with the Q-tip, just like I said, and then he just talked about washing them off and maybe using some air cans to dry it out when he was done. So if they're doing that, if the pros are doing it, I think it'll be a decent enough method. And down the road, if these things lock up for some reason inside, then that'll be a different story. And hopefully, if it does, I'll be around to make another video to say, don't do this, try something else. But yeah, you can buy these. It's just a matter of how much money and time and effort you want to spend. You can buy tuners like this, but they're probably double the price. And so if you have just a little bit of time and some energy and effort, you can do it yourself. So that's my 2 cents. Before I go, I wanted to give you an idea of what these actually look like finished. So there they are installed on the guitar, all 6 of the tuners. I'll try to give you as good of a close-up as I can. You can see that there's some patina sort of going on, and the screws look pretty aged too. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I did not use any kind of hydrochloric acid or any of the solution on the screws themselves. I just used sandpaper. But yeah, so that's what they look like. I will do another video on how I reliced the headstock, and there's a video on how I did the neck. And just for kicks, here's the rest of the guitar. It's a Strat, as if you can't tell. It looks old and beat up, or hopefully it looks old and beat up. That's what I was going for. And there's a video about how I reliced some of the other hardware. There's a video for everything I did to make this guitar. It's a parts caster, but I built it myself.
There's a video about, grounding this wire to the back of the trim claw, how I installed the trim claw. I use 3 springs, at least at the moment. Let me know if you use 4 springs or if you use 5 springs. I'm always interested to hear what people prefer. And here is the front of the guitar. And again, there's videos on all this stuff, what kind of pickguard I chose and the color and how I made it look old, what pickups I chose, or at least that video will be coming soon, and how I screwed in the holes and installed the strap buttons, how I colored the neck, how I put the decal on, how I put the string tree on, you name it, how I rolled the edges of the fretboard. Yeah, there's a treble bleed on here. So everything I did, again, there's a video, or there will be one out, so be sure to check out that playlist. Thank you, as always, for watching. Please subscribe, if you will, and give this video a like. Thanks for watching.